this first session is going to be focused on evaluation. I'm one of the forum representatives for the evaluation panel the last 3 years. When I joined, I did struggle with what can a young person bring to evaluation. But I think over the couple of years, I've sort of like accepted that what I bring is ensuring that the findings are presentable and understandable and relevant to the youth audience, because that's who we're doing this for. But also, how can we best celebrate some of the positive findings from the evaluation? Some of the things that come up, they're really impressive, and you just want to like scream them from the top of the roof to say like, this is what we've done, we're so amazing. So we're going to be looking at the sort of key themes for the final learning papers. And if anyone has any questions during the section, please type them in the chat and I'll try and like pick up on them and help facilitate that. But for now, I'll introduce Mer and Fran from ERS, who are leading this session.
Thanks, Arwen. Slight change in that we've got myself and Kate rather than Maya here today, but we'll present the session. It's going to be a little bit interactive. We've got some Jamboards to share with you, so we'll see how that all works out. But if anyone isn't able to use the Jamboards, we can always interact through the chat. So I'm going to share my screen with a PowerPoint for you all to look at. So that'll be up in just a moment. Okay, so today we're running an evaluation session. It's to mainly update you on what's happened since we produced the midterm report, and also fill you in on what we're up to at the moment and what's going to happen next with the evaluation, as well as to get some of your views around particular themes that we're exploring towards the final evaluation. So to move on to the first slide, it's a little update on what we've been doing since the midterm report. Anyone who's here who is a project manager will be familiar with the annual reports. We take all of the data from the annual reports that you submit, and we collate all of that into a report each year. So since the midterm report, we've had 2 of those, 2019, obviously 2020. So to recap on what some of the key themes were from each of those reports, for 2019, the themes reinforced many of the findings from the midterm around the types of outcomes gained for young people participating in the programme. And in particular, there were hopes expressed for the remainder of the programme, particularly around generating a legacy, particularly something that project managers and others involved in the programme were keen to carry forward was all of the work done to build a network of young people, and to really kind of celebrate achievements, as Arwen was talking about, share all of the positive work that has happened, and to capitalise on that kind of network of young people, of youth voice, and to celebrate what's happened and been achieved across all of the projects. So in 2020, key themes from the annual report, as you might imagine, looked a little bit different. We're all quite aware that we've had an unusual time around the pandemic, but nevertheless, there were lots of positives still to share, as well as some quite specific challenges as well throughout that year. So there were some differences in the socio-demographics of the young people who were engaged throughout 2020, which is an important point. And that may have been due to difficulties engaging digitally, and of course other effects of the pandemic, influencing the ability of young people to engage or not with the programme. So in particular, projects told us that difficulties in engaging disadvantaged young people through the pandemic, and that was for reasons ranging from kind of digital poverty, digital divide, lack of equipment, lack of ability to engage online, that kind of thing. And so there was a challenge there, but also lots of innovation that happened for projects, and lots of solutions that came in to make sure that young people across the portfolio could engage and get the most out of the programme and the activity that it was possible to deliver. So indeed, some of the projects have found that working digitally really works in engaging new audiences, and intending to continue that going forward within their projects or their organisations. And on the other hand, many projects felt it really reinforced the value of face-to-face engagement and how important it is that young people can interact with each other and be supported by the project staff and benefit from all of that interaction and experience and sharing. So those are some of the themes that came out, and we've also been working on thematic studies as well, and these were to focus in on particular topic areas that were relevant in the midterm and also relevant for the final evaluation as well. So they should be up online, I believe, in the resources section if you'd like to take a look at those reports. The first one was around participant impacts, so looking at various outcomes for young people through taking part, so things like what the sport has meant for them, lots of case studies of young people that have been involved and telling their stories. The environmental leaders thematic study was focusing in on young people that have gained leadership skills and started to develop their own campaigns and actions. Again, lots of stories in there and lots of learnings around how that's achieved. And then the Our Bright Future Skills thematic study was looking at the approaches that different projects have taken to developing skills for young people, what works well, what types of skills have been developed, and what the lessons are around using the natural environment to develop skills. So that's what we've been up to. And thanks for everyone for all of your participation in the various studies, and of course for filling in your annual reports and all of that. In terms of what projects have been up to since the midterm report, we thought it would be useful to highlight some headline figures. So in terms of young people engaged, put some totals up there. In terms of one-off engagement, the figure is now over 81,000, which is a gain of 18,000 people since 2019, Q1, which is when the midterm report was produced. Short-term engagement is now 25,000, and that's a gain of 7,000 young people since 2019, and long-term engagement, more than 15,000 young people in total, so that's a gain of 5,000 since midterm. So these figures are cumulative. This is in total across the whole programme, and just showing what's been achieved in the years since the midterm, which is really positive, especially considering the challenging circumstances there. And some other key achievements to highlight since the midterm. 7,565 participants have gained qualifications, again showing a really good increase since 2019. Over 500 participants have progressed to full-time employment, which is really positive as well. And since Q3 of 2020, more than half of project managers, this is a little bit an additional question we asked because of COVID. We sort of asked whether project managers expected that their project outcomes would remain roughly the same despite COVID, and 15 out of 25 projects agreed that they would be able to maintain the quality of outcomes and to achieve or kind of upkeep that engagement. So there was a kind of really positive feeling despite all of these challenges, and projects and young people have done really well to keep that going as well. And over to Kate for this slide.
Thank you. Next one. Just to say comment there, I mean, Kath and Nikki will remember, but some of those numbers, they're really big numbers, aren't they, in terms of number of people engaged, and thinking back to what some of the original targets were, absolutely smashed them in terms of numbers of people one-off engaged and long-term engagement as well. So I think it's worth remembering that, the numbers in isolation, sometimes you think, they look impressive, but actually they are impressive because of what the original targets were. Okay, so 3 figures here. These are about, so the ones that Fran was sharing there, they were about the young people. This is about, okay, so what's it meant for the community and the environment? So, you know, again, some nice juicy figures here in terms of 3,029 community spaces improved and 306 new community spaces. And then in terms of environmental benefits, the amount of materials that have been diverted from landfill, 772,000 kilograms of material diverted from landfill, which is quite incredible. All right, next slide then, Fran, thank you. So that's what we've been up to, and you guys have been up to. So what to expect from us in 2021. So we've got the final evaluation report. The draft is due in October. So reflecting on the midterm report, I think it was about 155 pages, I think. We have reflected on it and said, okay, actually what we need is some digestible lessons learned and being able to showcase impact. So we're going to have what we're calling the core evaluation report, and trying to make that shorter than the midterm, but then accompanying that having 6 learning papers, which will be much shorter and hopefully sort of much easier to disseminate and share those lessons and achievements from the programme. At the moment, we've got, well, we will have 6 learning papers. And these are kind of the working titles across different themes, which as the panel and sort of through wider consultation thought were the key things that the programme wanted to share in terms of lessons and a legacy about impact. So the first one about skills and employability, all those things that have been achieved by young people. The second one, well-being and mental health. So what's been learnt about supporting well-being and mental health, particularly in the context of working in the environment, in the natural environment. The youth-led study, so that that's kicked off and well underway. That's asking young people to help us with that evaluation reporting. So they're acting as kind of reporters, really, going out there, finding out what projects they've achieved for the environment. And then the three more here, sort of lessons learned. So what has the programme learned about engaging young people? The programme model, what does it mean to be a collection of 31 projects and working together as a programme, as opposed to working independently? And then the final one, what's been learned and what would we take forward about youth governance? So getting young people involved in the management and governance of organisations and projects and programmes. The next one, please, Fran. So one thing that we really wanted to do when we were planning for the final evaluation is reflecting on learning and really getting those golden nuggets, those lessons learned, those takeaways. What are those? There's all these different terminology, but what are those pearls of wisdom? What are those little single pieces of advice that you would give to somebody who is embarking on something similar? Or what would you say? Oh, I really wish we'd have done that. Or, oh, this meeting was particularly important. That actually changed what I did and that was really successful. What's been learned through the delivery of our Bright Future? So that's really our focus, and those are the kinds of phrases that we keep coming back to. What do we take away? What are the lessons that we want to take forward? And the next one, Fran.
Oh, this is the point where we switch to the Jamboards. So I'll stop sharing for a moment, and then Nikki is going to share a link to a Jamboard in the chat, I believe. So just to kind of introduce this next section, as I said, we're hoping to have something a little bit interactive. So we've got a series of 3 Jamboards. We'll see how many we can work through together, but each focus on a different topic or a different area that we'd really like your input on. And it will be easier to explain when we get there, but we're hoping that you can contribute in various ways by typing and adding various suggestions and feedback onto the Jamboards. So hopefully everyone can see that link at the moment in the chat. All right, I'll give everyone a moment to open your own version of the Jamboard. But while I talk us through it, I'll also share my screen just so you can see, we can all see the same thing. So this first Jamboard is to look at what works well when engaging young people in the environment, in environmental projects. This is a topic of one of our papers. And so we've been thinking about the different hooks that kind of engage young people, attract them to a project, the different things that it's useful for a project to have in place to keep young people involved once they are recruited. What retains them, what are the things that work really well, and of course there's no one size fits all. Different things work for different groups of young people, different individual young people, but in terms of learning, it's useful to try and look for any common factors and lessons where we can say, oh, this works particularly well in recruiting a certain group of young people, or this works really well in keeping them retained and engaged and interested. So we've got some suggestions of groups up here. So we've got NEET young people, not in employment engagement training. We've got groups with low confidence and experiencing mental health challenges, groups who may have no interest in the environment prior to engaging, and BAME communities as well. And those are just some suggestions, and what we're hoping you can do is to access that Jamboard via the link that Nikki shared and add on some text boxes around it. I think you can do that, yeah, through those icons on the left-hand side, and let us know really what you found to work well when engaging different groups. There's also some kind of empty fish here as well if you want to add a particular group that you work with, for example, on your project, or a group that you belong to, and we'll see what we get. So to kind of, we're going to try this out, but to split the contributions up a little bit so that we can sort of add some things, then talk about it, maybe add some things more. We were going to suggest that anyone whose birthday is between January and June to be the first batch of people to start adding to the Jamboard. Then we'll see what we get. We'll pause there, see if there's anything to discuss, and then we'll come back for everybody else. Hopefully that kind of splits people into two big groups. But yeah, adding things onto the Jamboard that you consider to work well. You can sort of attach it to a particular fish if you think there's something that works well for one group or another. You can put it elsewhere if you think maybe it works for lots of different groups, or you can copy certain things around. So I'll stop sharing so that everyone can sort of focus on their own screens, and we'll give you a bit of time to start adding some contributions in there. Brilliant, I can see things starting to pop up there, which is fantastic, thanks. So we've got giving the young people choices so they are able to direct what they do. Keep it fun, really important one, and probably applicable across lots of different types of young people.
Oh, this is great, isn't it? All these people, fantastic.
Brilliant. One connected to NEET young people specifically there, so a chance to gain recognisable work experience. And I'm trying to pick things out as they pop up.
Stealth.
Oh, this is great. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so we've got there a variety of activities on offer. So indoor, outdoor, practical, educational fun, leading to young people deciding as a group what they like most and running with that. Yeah, I think the flexibility of the portfolio and the variety of offers really stands out as one of the key success factors. Passionate and enthusiastic project staff, definitely. A lot of the evidence that's come out has shown how essential it is to have project staff with the right skills, experience, supporting young people in the right ways.
Oh, we've got another fish, young people with disabilities, yeah.
Brilliant. There's a lot popping up here. Can't keep up. This is great. Let's see. So we've got some, I'll try and focus on a particular fish and look around that. So we've got low confidence, mental health. Staff trained in supporting young people with mental health issues, appropriate safeguarding structures. Absolutely, it's really important. Smaller groups, which is a good point. We've seen that group work can really support individuals with low confidence, but having intensive support and smaller groups so that the young people feel supported is really, really crucial as well. Approachable staff, non-judging, ensuring a safe environment. Brilliant.
Yes, neurodiversity is added to the young people with disabilities. Yeah. Interesting.
Tailor sessions to needs and abilities, absolutely. Trying to let's have a look at no interest in the environment prior to engaging. So stealth, yeah. Many young people joining our program didn't have an interest in environmental factors, but developed this through their experience. Definitely, we've done a little bit of work around motivations and obviously looked back at the data you've shared with us over time, and found that it might be surprising, but environmental motivations are often less common for young people getting involved with the program. It's a whole host of things. It's wanting to get involved for the social side of things, wanting to make a difference, wanting to improve their own mental health and well-being, looking for skills, jobs, work experience, that kind of thing. So there's a whole host of things, and absolutely embedding the kind of environmental side of things into all of those different types of provision can really work and develop interest in those that didn't previously have that. Lots of stuff going up there. I really can't keep up with it all. So that's fantastic. That's really great contributions. Let's pick. Kate, have you spotted any that you that I haven't read that you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's themes about really listening to young people, being curious, understand what interests them. And what their communities need. So it's being open and listening. So being approachable staff. So again, the importance of the people that are working on the project side, making sure that there's a kind of a safe, open environment. Again, staff trained in supporting young people with mental health issues and appropriate safeguarding structures. And then the longer term factor as well, working together for more than 3 months builds trust and leads to stronger project and better outcomes. So recognizing that it takes time. Taster sessions.
Yeah, taster sessions. So some ideas around recruitment there. I've noticed some things around sort of meeting basic needs as well. So food, refreshments, transport, ensuring there's no financial barriers or other barriers to take.
Yes, there's another one. There's another financial barrier one that is offering incentives and a chance. Sort of multifaceted, that isn't it really, but a chance for paid work as well. Lots about the staff.
Brilliant. So this board is getting quite full, and I'm aware that we have only asked half of you to contribute so far.
That's true, I forgot about that.
Everyone's been adding things, which is totally fine. Perhaps is anyone who's been asked to contribute in that first batch, maybe if you just pause there, and then everyone else, birthdays July to December. if you haven't already, if you'd like to start throwing things in there, and then we can ensure we've got thoughts from across both groups. Yeah, so brilliant. I think what this demonstrates is that you know, you all have so much learning about what works. The portfolio has obviously worked with a whole range of young people with very different needs and interests and circumstances, but there's lots there against sort of each of the groups, different groups that we hadn't sort of put on there already, and lots of really good stuff, lots of overlap as well, but lots of really kind of distinct things. So some aspects work for work broadly, and others might be more specific or tailored to specific young people. Okay, yeah, I'm noting the change of terminology there to racially and culturally diverse communities.
Yeah.
And some important points around that, suggestions to work with organisations and charities already involved in particular communities, making connections. That's definitely a theme that's come out as we've been preparing the paper around this topic as well, is building face-to-face relationships, kind of genuine long-term engagement with particular community groups, to engage young people that are traditionally underrepresented. Pizza and hoodies as well. Some incentives there. Brilliant. I think we'll give a few more minutes on this one, and then we'll try the next Jamboard, which Nikki, perhaps if you could put that next link in the chat, please.
Yeah.
We've got that set up. Great stuff. We want to ensure that we get your thoughts on all of the topics.
Thank you. So if we all try and go over to Jamboard number 2. A big thank you, really, because we weren't quite sure how this was going to work. So thank you for dropping in those contributions so so quickly. I think it's the automatic facilitating session with like pens and post-it notes. So this is this is kind of our alternative, and it's working quite well. Thank you. So on Jamboard number 2, hopefully when you're there, yes, and I can see people are in that one as well. So this is about the portfolio approach and the program function. So what do we mean by that? So portfolio approach as in sort of bringing together the 31 projects as opposed to each individual project interacting with the funders separately. And then the program functions, by that we mean kind of the SLI stuff, the youth forum, youth function, and also the policy work. So the stuff that happens at a program level. So what are the things that work well and other programs could replicate and to do the same thing, and that really kind of adds value to the work of Our Bright Future? And then secondly, on the other side, and what would you do differently if it was to start again? So if we were back at day 1, what would you say, oh, actually, this doesn't really work very well, let's try something else that could that would work better, or something that you kind of discovered more recently that actually works well. Maybe there's something from the last year to do with sort of the COVID restrictions or something. So actually we could have been doing that from the beginning. Are there any things to add there? So on the same sort of theme, trying to divide us up a bit, could we have, for the first set, anybody, let me have a look at your anyone that doesn't have a headset on to do the first lot of additions?
I can also see things are still being added to the first Jamboard, so thanks for those as well. I think that definitely gives us a lot to sense check with our paper. Brilliant, and things starting to appear in Jamboard number 2.
Oh, fabulous. The conferences, absolutely, meet and chat informally and learn from each other. I certainly think as an evaluation team we get a lot from those as well, having those conversations over a cup of tea about what's happening in all the different localities across the country. Youth-led approaches, absolutely, it's been such a core ethos through the programme. Exchange, yeah, project exchange visits. So that's something that, wouldn't have happened if it everybody working on their own. So being able to connect and communicate to other projects. I'm always curious about, how much it matters if people are doing similar activity, or whether or not there are things that can be learned, with other projects Yeah, I'm feeling what you felt now, Fran. They're all popping up now. Shared values and learning, being part of something bigger. Absolutely, that's great.
An awful lot on what's worked well.
Yeah, absolutely. Showing participants that their work matters, showing that they're part of something bigger. Okay, whilst that group is sort of finishing up their comments, anyone else? So people who, I've forgotten which way around I did it, the headphone people, people who've got headsets on, invited to join as well. The youth-led approach, because that's also, you know, that's part of one of the core kind of ethos of the program, wasn't it, from the start?
Yeah. Interesting one there. Just coming to read what would you do differently for future programs? Integration of digital alongside face-to-face work. Perhaps that individual can say a little bit more, but I wonder if that's a result of the pandemic and the change in working approaches, or if that's something that's been relevant throughout. Is it a new thing? Is it a kind of new learning to come out of that period?
Yeah.
Underneath, take the experience.
That is something from COVID, isn't it? So the one below as well, take the experience from COVID and use social media and the internet to connect people and make it easier for everyone to access meetings, resources and discussions. I think everybody, you know, I think discovering that we don't have to, you know, travel for every meeting, I think has certainly benefited people and engaged people that perhaps wouldn't have been able to join discussions, but recognising that it's a combination of both, really.
Mm. Indeed, we've got a suggestion there as well.
Blended meeting.
About face-to-face meetings and perhaps more regional travel. So there's always a flip side, isn't there? I think sort of the value of face-to-face and the ease of digital for particular groups or participants, of course, doesn't work for everyone.
So project exchange visits from the start. Okay, so finding that the learning is that those are valuable. So actually, yeah, let's get those going from the beginning. When the comment at the top there, integrate inclusivity goals and plans at the start of the project. I wonder if you could expand a little bit more on that. Is that inclusivity in terms of different young people engaged?
It's looking very neat on that right hand side.
I know, yeah.
There's quite a bit on projects sharing learning and doing exchange visits. Is there anything around which types of projects you found useful to bring together or share from? Is it sort of projects that are the same or different to what you do? Is there anything more to say around where kind of most of the useful learning has come from in that regard?
Can I just jump in there, Fran? Sorry,
Yeah.
quickly, because I put the sticky note about provision for exchange visits from the start.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I did that was because actually they never were really a part of Our Bright Future. They developed very organically. So they weren't a planned element of the programme. And actually Hillholt would, and I know we've got Holly on here from Hillholt, but really pioneered that because they wanted to make it their mission to visit every other project in the portfolio. And I think, Holly, you pretty much managed to do that.
Yeah, I think we did all but one in the end.
Yeah. So maybe, I don't know if you've got any experience to share from differences in visits between projects that are similar or projects that are really different.
Yeah, I was going to type something. It's quite hard to like write it on sticky notes. But Fran, when you were asking about what we get out of them, you know, is it that you get more out of similar ones? If I'm being honest with you, you get something out of going anywhere. And you get that on a program or project level, but also for the young people. A big part of our project exchanges was about the young people going to get to visit other young people. And it might be that that sparked their interest in the environment, for example, or they realised that football's related to the environment because of X, Y, Z, or whatever it is. And also getting them out of the county and getting them, you know, more life experience and confidence and, you know, in going and travelling. On the flip side of that, personally, when I visited and a lot of our project staff did, it might be that we go and visit a project that's got nothing, not doing delivery in any way, shape or form, the same as us, but maybe the way that the resources they use, the way they communicate with their young people, the way they, you know, maybe do things digitally or whatever, you kind of pick up and learn from so many different people. And I think as well, when you go to visit somebody, they also get the same out of you. And seeing how their young people interact. So yeah, I would say it's not, you know, it's not just visiting projects that are the same as yours, it's kind of across the board. It was hugely beneficial, but we can talk separately if you want to go into more detail about that if need be.
Brilliant, thanks Holly, that's really useful insight, thank you.
Yeah, and we should say, and if there's anything that kind of you can't, as you say, can't get on a sticky note, then you know, always feel free to kind of add or get in touch later, you know, or via Nikki or directly to the evaluation team, and we can kind of pick up anything specifically if you wanted to add more.
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic, thank you.
Great.
Right, if we're at 10:50, do you want to go on to Jamboard number 3?
Jamboard number 3, brilliant. So number 3 is a little bit different. We'll wait for the link. Brilliant, Nikki's on it. So the link for Jamboard number 3 is now in the chat. And it's a little bit different this time because we were a little bit more progressed with this particular paper. So this one's around wellbeing. We had some emerging findings to share, and this is more about you helping us to sense check those. So give you a second to kind of open that up. But once you can see the Jamboard, we've got sort of principles and activities of projects at the bottom, and these are things that we found the kind of golden nuggets or success factors that support young people to develop their well-being. So for example, being in nature, the environment is a really key resource for enabling that, but also meeting like-minded people, like we've already talked about a little, having appropriate support from project staff and so on. There's various things on there which you can have a read of in a second. And then kind of moving up the tree to the top of the Jamboard, the benefits. So there might be sort of steps in between the young person taking part in an activity and then achieving well-being, and sort of in between we found that there are a whole host of benefits. So that might be feeling relaxed, increased self-confidence, sense of achievement, sense of belonging, and so on. And what we hoped you could do on this Jamboard is to kind of let us know which of these that are already on there that you agree with or disagree with. So if you could sort of make a mark, a yes or a no, or a red to represent no, or a green to represent yes, some kind of mark next to these, the text that's already on there, to indicate whether you agree with it or disagree with it. And if you could try and focus on the kind of top 3 things that you think make the most difference in supporting young people's well-being in your experience from your project. And that might give us a sort of relative idea of which are the stronger themes or stronger findings. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that, and then we can look at sort of adding additional things that we might have missed that you know contributes, or that you're aware of as well. So brilliant. Yeah, we've got some green ticks popping up there. Green circles. So instantly there's a lot appearing around increased self-confidence. Maybe tally marks. From now on, perhaps ticks are fine if you put them up there, but maybe tally marks just next to the one, so it doesn't get too busy. But we can see increased self-confidence, lots of ticks marks around that one. So the activities carried out in nature related to the environment increase self-confidence and in turn can increase well-being.
I'm always curious about the being in nature stuff, because yes, absolutely, it comes across so many times, and it's kind of, what is it about being in nature? The different environment? Is it the physical activity? The alternative learning environment is also coming up there as well.
Yeah, would be interested to hear views if anyone wants to share around that. We've sort of looked through various bits of our research at how important the outdoor setting is for young people experiencing outcomes and benefits, and it's quite hard to separate what it's really down to. So of course, being in the natural environment has loads of benefits, and they're quite well known, but on a kind of individual level, it's hard to separate whether outcomes happen for that young person because they're in the outdoors, or because they're in a group of young people in the outdoors, or because they're not in a classroom environment. It's hard to sort of unpick that. So if anyone has any thoughts about or evidence about how you know it's sort of the natural environment that makes that difference, as opposed to, say, being in a group or meeting like-minded people, be interested to hear about that. We know that some projects have researched that quite extensively, so we have various bits of evidence, but if anyone had anything to add today, that would be great.
Ooh.
Photos. Brilliant. Great. So I think we can see there's quite a lot of agreement against various themes there. There's a red circle around tasks which help others. I wonder if the person who placed that mark could say anything more about that in a comment, perhaps, just so we know what that's referring to.
I was practicing their drawing. Brilliant. Who has some additions on? Oh, sorry, go on. Who? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to invite additions. So if there's anything that you think is really crucial to improving young people's well-being that isn't on there already, feel free to add that on.
Yeah, there's a couple of added at the top there, which just sort of helps with emotional regulation and healthy coping mechanisms, which there were two additions there at the top right there.
Brilliant.
Two people have written the same thing at the same time: enabling leadership and giving young people a voice, and then giving young people a voice.
Time and patience, recognizing progress is not linear and providing differentiated support. Absolutely. I think we've sort of looked at different features of projects, and some more structured support where young people engage for a certain amount of time. Other support is obviously open-ended, so young people can engage for a really long duration, and for many young people that kind of ability to take their time and experience outcomes in their own time has been really one of the crucial factors. Yeah. Responsibility, e.g. checking. I think what this is showing is that there are so many routes to well-being for young people, and that the programme does many of them. You know, you can see through all the different types of projects and types of activities offered, there's lots of ways that young people can improve their well-being through being outdoors or working on environmental objectives.
Oh, there's a comment there about the outdoors. So less noise reduces anxiety, gives the ability for a young person to step away and feel they're under less pressure. So that's getting to the reasons of why being in nature is a useful mechanism.
Brilliant, thank you for that comment.
Fabulous. So can we keep these up for people to add to if something occurs to them, sort of in a break or anything like that? What would you prefer, Nikki? Or we can wrap it up.
Well, now the links are in there, people can just jump in and
Go
out
back. Yeah,
as they
okay.
want to. So I'm just a bit conscious of time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so I think if we leave them up and then people can just, if they want to go back to them, then they can do that because the links are in the chat anyway.
Fabulous. Okay.
That's brilliant.
We've got a couple more slides, and I think, have we got until, is it 5 past or 10 past?
Yeah.
5 past.
5 past, yeah, okay. No problem. So the other thing that we asked everyone to do is to kind of come up with an image that they feel like encapsulate what our Bright Future meant to them. So we've had some in, so this is kind of a reminder to say keep them coming in. What we hope to do is use them in the report because it's lovely to have really nice images. So again, with that comes all of the requests to make sure that you're happy for them to be used and appropriate permissions and that kind of thing. Very conscious of time, but I'll flick through a couple and then just in a few minutes or maybe at the next break, maybe have the Jamboard available. So there's one final one, Jamboard 4, which is a word or phrase which sums up our Bright Future to you. So we'll flick through some here. So these are pictures that we've had in. I have to say I love them all. So they're here. We've got some really nice muddy looking guys in the bottom having an absolutely wonderful time there. This one for me, kind of this collage for me shows the range of activities. So there we've got kind of a campaigning one, we've got that bug hotel, some real practical activity, and then also the range of ages as well with school children there as well. The next one, Fran, please. So this one's from Student Eats. I have to say I'm very jealous of their polytunnel there. And the next one, we'll flick through them quite quickly, Fran. Again, a range of different activities. So this is quite a campaigning focused one. So what have people actually been doing? So campaigning for peat free, the No Mow May. This one I love because, oh, that's fine. You can go on to the next one, Fran. This one I love because it talks about how long it, the long-term engagement. What does it mean? So it's not just about one kind of walk or one activity. So this is the culmination of 2 years' work to achieve the Green Flag Eco Club Award. So that's a really nice one there. And the next one, this is just such a joyous photo, isn't it? Such a brilliant one. And the next one, I want this one last actually. If you go to the next one and then come back to this one. I think we've got Hillholt next.
I think there's a lag on.
Okay, there we are, Hillholt. I love this. All those people coming together, working together to on a joint project, and it's such a tangible outcome as well. And going back, Fran, this one, the previous Hillholt one, it's quite an unassuming photo, but I actually really love it. So there's two, I'm going to say lads, young people, they're just walking together, doing something quite physical in the environment, but it's just lovely. I love it. So the last Jamboard is an opportunity to either, you could add a photo if you've got one ready to hand, or adding words that sum up what our Bright Future means to you. And we'll close there. So if you want to do that at another break opportunity, that's fine, because I can see that we're at 11:05 now. Thank you very much, and thank you to everybody. Really, we weren't quite sure how it went, but brilliant. Thank you for your lovely contributions.
Thank you.